कैसे हैं सर? नमस्कार निखिल जी। मुझे आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रही? एक सेकंड रुकना। एक
जी
सेकंड।
अरुण जी, अब आ रही है आवाज।
आ रही है, अब आ रही है, आ रही
अरुण जी, गुड मॉर्निंग।
है। मॉर्निंग मॉर्निंग सौरभ जी, पहली बार
मॉर्निंग निखिल जी।
आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है प्लेटफॉर्म पर।
हाँ जी, थैंक यू सर।
आप भी जयपुर ही बैठते हैं, कहीं और बैठते हैं?
नहीं सर, उदयपुर।
ओके। बढ़िया जगह है सर उदयपुर तो। सर पैटर्न क्या रहेगा, मैं आपको बता देता हूँ। देखो, एक कुछ जो हमारे मेंबर हैं उनको तो हम ऐड करते हैं यहाँ पर, जूम का लिंक देते हैं। बाकी जो है वो हमारे यूट्यूब पर आते हैं। तो मैं मतलब जब आपको यूट्यूब का लिंक अभी दे रहा हूँ मैं चैट पर। आप इसको ना पैरेलली ओपन करके रखिएगा। तो अगर कोई क्वेरी यूट्यूब पे आती है तो यू कैन डिस्कस दैट क्वेरी आल्सो।
करेक्ट, बिल्कुल ठीक है। उसको मोबाइल में ओपन कर लेते हैं।
हाँ, जैसे निखिल जी आपको तो आइडिया है,
हाँ
आप
जी, हाँ जी।
पहले भी कई बार कर चुके हैं। तो सौरभ जी आप भी नॉर्मली नॉर्मल प्रोसेस है, बट
राइट।
देखते रहिएगा कि कोई क्वेरीज अगर आए ना तो।
हाँ, मतलब और कोशिश तो यही करेंगे कि एक बार सेशन कंप्लीट होने के बाद में या तो क्वेरीज ले लेंगे।
वो कंप्लीटली आपके ऊपर है, जस्ट कि क्वेरी हम आंसर कर दें।
राइट।
राइट।
बिल्कुल।
तो आप भी जीएसटी देखते हैं सौरभ जी,
हाँ जी सर, बिल्कुल।
या मिक्स?
नहीं, मेरा भी पोर्टफोलियो मेनली जीएसटी का है।
बहुत बढ़िया। मेंबर क्या है, धीरे धीरे ऐड होते जाएंगे। तो बस 8 में लोग शार्प 11 पर कर देंगे। तो 2 मिनट लगेगा मुझे इंडिविजुअल इंट्रोडक्शन लेने के लिए, और उसके बाद में फिर आपको हैंड ओवर कर दूंगा प्लेटफॉर्म।
बिल्कुल।
मेंबर क्या है, धीरे धीरे ऐड होते जाएंगे। तो 8 में लोग शार्प।
Sir, good morning.
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग सर, गुड मॉर्निंग।
Morning. How are you people?
ग्रेट ग्रेट, डूइंग ग्रेट।
फाइन सर।
एंड आफ्टर यस्टरडेज विनिंग ट्रॉफी वी आर ऑन गुड नाइन।
I was enjoying movie with the family at that time. The long gap, I went spent some time with the family yesterday.
या
In general interest, sir, can I speak few words?
आफ्टर दी लेट मी स्टार्ट दी वेबिनार।
Sir, the time is over. Okay, you can start, sir. I'm muting myself.
आप देख पा रहे हैं सर, आप लोग मतलब उसमें देख पा रहे हैं ना चैट में, सो इन द यूट्यूब।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, सोलंकी जी की क्वेरी आई है।
ठीक है, मतलब वैसे ये कंटिन्यूसली आती रहेगी, आप अपना जैसे भी आपको उचित लगे, एंड द लैंग्वेज वुड बी मतलब एज पर योर चॉइस।
राइट, मिक्स कर
कॉम्बिनेशन
लेंगे
ऑफ,
उसको।
करेक्ट करेक्ट।
गणेशन जी saying that Hindi not understanding.
प्रॉब्लम रहेगा ये तो। देखो सर, वी विल आई विल टेल कि दैट मतलब विल बी इन द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ इंग्लिश हिंदी।
Yes, 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 correct.
मैं इनको चैट कर दूंगा। तो सर मैं स्टार्ट करता हूँ इंट्रो से, एंड देन आई विल हैंड ओवर, तो अपना टाइम लिखकर कंप्लीट हो सके डिस्कशन।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, राइट।
तो आप ऐसा कीजिएगा सर, टू द एक्सटेंट पॉसिबल है ना, इसको इंग्लिश में रखते हैं निखिल सर।
अच्छा।
ठीक है ना, टू द
ओके।
एक्सटेंट पॉसिबल, जहाँ पे मुझे हिंदी यूज करना कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं मेरे को, बट इफ इट इज पॉसिबल देन मतलब कि काइंडली मैक्सिमम जितना हम कर सकें हम इंग्लिश में करते हैं, ताकि जो साउदर्न पार्टिसिपेंट है दैट विल आल्सो गेट बेनिफिटेड।
ओके, वी विल ट्राई दैट, श्योर।
तो सर आज का डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करते हैं। टुडे इज वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक। गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू, ऑल द एजुकेटिंग मेंबर, ऑल द यूट्यूब फैमिली एंड एवरीवन। सो आज हमारे साथ सीए निखिल जी हैं। एक सेकंड, मैं म्यूट कर देता हूँ सभी को, क्योंकि ये डिस्टर्बेंस रहेगा। So Nikhil ji is the senior partner looking after Delhi NCR and Jaipur office. Is presently into the income tax audit, GST advisory, and the GST auditing of the various corporate clients, including in the field of excise service tax. He is also the faculty on the GST with Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. He has been a speaker in many seminars on the GST service tax. He has been handling the litigation matter related to service tax excise of the various corporates and also representing them before various judicial authorities. Earlier, he was also engaged in the consultation on UAE, Saudi Arabia VAT. Very nice, sir. Now, I like to discuss the brief profile of the CA Saurabh ji, and it's really great honor that आज हमारे वो प्लेटफॉर्म पर पहली बार आए हैं। CA Saurabh ji, namaskar. CA Saurabh Nagda ji is also the partner having the experience of over 7 years. He served as a finance and business controller for over 2 years in the Vedanta Group. He is presenting the core member of the GST advisory and auditing team of the firms for audit of the various corporates clients in the excise, service tax, and the GST. He is handling the litigation matter related to service tax, excise, and the GST of the various corporate, and also present them before the various judicial authority. Sir Nikhil ji and Saurabh ji will discuss today on the topic of the various circular. They will go into the multiple integration of that circular, the purpose, and something like that. So all are requested to ask the question at the end of the discussion, because there are a lot of circular, lot of changes by the 53rd GST Council meeting. सो मेरा सभी से ये रिक्वेस्ट है दैट कि प्लीज कीप द क्वेश्चन एट द एंड ऑफ द डिस्कशन, एंड जो भी आपका फिर भी अगर आप करना चाहें तो चैट विंडो इज ओपन, यू कैन सेंड द मैसेज, एंड वी आल्सो लाइव ऑन द यूट्यूब। तो जो मेंबर जूम पर कनेक्टेड नहीं है वो यूट्यूब पर कनेक्टेड है, सर विल आल्सो लुक आउट द यूट्यूब क्वेरीज एज वेल एंड गिव द आंसर which is related to the today discussion only. Might be कुछ participants का क्वेश्चन अदर देन टुडे टॉपिक हो सकता है, तो मैं उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि दैट विल नॉट बी एड्रेस्ड बाय द फैकल्टीज बिकॉज टाइम इज शॉर्ट एंड वी हैव टू डिस्कस lot of things of the recent changes. Now I request Nikhil ji and Saurabh ji over to you for taking the deliberations.
Thank you very much, Arunji, for the brief introduction, and we are thankful to you for inviting us on this platform. And it is always enriching before the various professionals and other friends to discuss a lot of GST related issues. And this time we have a lot of things to discuss because there have been a lot of developments in the past 1 week, wherein there was a 53rd GST Council meeting, and various trade related and facilitation and relief measures were announced, and the press release were also published. And then it was followed by 16 circulars on GST clarifying various issues. So the discussion, although the 2 hours is actually very less, if we go into the nitty-gritties of the all the changes. So first we will try to cover the very important changes which are impacting everyone. And then if time permit, then we will take up the other part. So we have allocated circulars and other changes in 2 parts. I'll be initiating my discussion, then I'll request Saurabh to take his part. So I'll just share my screen. And I also like to congratulate everyone for yesterday's 20 World Cup winning trophy. And I
Yes,
think
yes, yes.
everyone is in that particular zone even now. But now we have to also discuss GST. So now let's get started. I hope my screen is visible and I'm also audible to the
Visible,
audience.
visible.
So I'll be taking up a lot of important changes and different circulars. So let's start with. So first important change or scheme which has been announced is the conditional waiver of interest and penalties. So we have seen in past 1 year, there have been a lot of demand notices issued by the authorities, uh, piling up a lot of GST demands, including interest and penalties. And it was the initial period of GST implementation. So there were some clerical mistakes also. There were some short payment of tax also and other things. And there were a lot of changes coming in. So SSCs were not aware about those changes. So considering them now, the government has announced a amnesty scheme. We can call it a mini amnesty scheme by inserting section 128A in CGST Act 2017. So wherein they mentioned that for 3 financial years, 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20, if you are paying the entire GST, which has been proposed in the GST demand notices, then the entire amount of interest and penalty will be waived. And the timeline has been given till 31st March 2025 that you can pay the particular GST demand in the demand notice. So it's a very good development and beneficial scheme. And the ample timeline has been given, almost 9 months have been given. We can easily plan our finances and relook at all the demand notices and review them. Wherever we feel that the issue is not very good on merits, so we can pay the GST and we will get the interest and penalty waiver. Because now if you see, the amount of interest has also become as good as tax. For 1718, though it has actually exceeded the tax amount, right? Because now 6 to 7 years are already lapsed in passing of GST, and 18% is the interest liability, and penalty is also 10%. So it's a very beneficial scheme. And the one exclusion in this scheme is that it is not applicable to the erroneous refunds. So refunds are not covered by this scheme. Otherwise, all other notices, be it of short payment of GST liability or output liability, RCM liability, or maybe ITC demand, maybe for example, 1 versus 3B difference, 2A versus 3B difference, or maybe other kinds of RCM liability as compared to GST which we have, most important, as I've discussed, that we have time till 31st March of 2025. Now, the point is, we have experienced that show cause notice has been issued under Section 74 also, even though there are no ingredients of fraud or suppression or tax evasion, right? We can say that wrongly invoked Section 74 by the department. But since this particular scheme is only covering the notices under Section 73, so as of now, any notice of 74, even though it might be related to some 2A versus 3B demand, or maybe related to some ITC reversal or ITC demand, it will not be covered by this particular scheme. Until and unless we pursue that particular notice before the authorities, or maybe you have already received the order before the appellate authorities, and the authority directs determination of tax from 74 to 73, only then that particular notice will be deemed to be issued under 73. So on those cases also, we should review and pursue those notices if the matter is not good on merits. So we can challenge that matter, especially on the grounds of that there is no allegation or any no ingredients present in the notice for tax evasion, suppression of tax and fraud. Because there have been a lot of judicial precedent in past by Supreme Court that the department has burden to prove whether there is a tax evasion involved in the particular tax notice, right? Merely because there is a clerical mistake, or merely I just could not pay the tax, or I could not file the return, or I could not report some taxable supply in my GST return, it could not be treated as tax evasion until and unless there was any mens rea applicable. So we should also look from that angle. Now, since only 73 notices applicable, so no other notices under Section 129 or 120, 76 have any benefit under this scheme. Now, the one point which is coming and which is being we are discussing with our clients also and with other professionals, and this is the much awaited demand also of industry, that what about those notices which are only of interest or maybe of penalty? For example, I filed my GST 3B after due date. So now I have to pay interest because of the delayed filing of returns and delayed payment of taxes. But I have already paid my GST. So now it is only about the payment of interest. I have received the notice from the department, show cause notice, or maybe it has also been converted into the order for interest. It does not have any demand of tax. So now, as of now, because we don't have a fine print of the sections, it will come in budget and other coming time. So as per the press release, as of now, as per my understanding, this particular notice for only interest and penalty are not directly being covered by that relief. So we have to wait, and rather we should represent also to the government that, because otherwise it will be discriminatory. Because on one side, the person who has only filed GSTR 1 and has not filed GSTR 3B, and now he will only pay the taxes and will be getting relief for interest and penalty. And on second side, who has already paid GST R3B and filed GST R3B and suo paid the tax. And now he has got the notice of interest. So he has to pay the interest, and that is not being covered by the scheme directly. So both situations should be covered by the scheme. So let's see. We have to wait for the final print of the section, which I think will be proposed in the upcoming budget in July. Right. So as we already discussed about the 74, that we should pursue appellate authority. If they agree for conversion into 73, so we can get the benefit of this particular scheme. Now, so I will discuss some other scenarios which may be applicable, and as of now, there is no clarity, and we may get clarity in some points of time after the section is introduced. But the government should have give the clear answers to these questions, because whenever any scheme comes, we should have a clarity on that particular aspect. Because if you remember, in service tax regime and excise regime, we have got the Sabka Vishwas scheme, right? But there were a lot of confusion in respect to what is covered by that scheme, what is not covered. So here I would request to the government that it should be clear, so that we have major benefit availing of this scheme. So for example, I have one scenario wherein I have got the demand notice, one demand notice which has one of the demands for 73 and one of the demands under section 74. So normally it is being taken care by the center. In states, we have experienced that they are issuing separate demand notices for 73 and 74. But in center, they are issuing a common demand notice, show cause notice. Demand notice basically show cause notice under 73. So in my opinion, the demand to the extent of 73 should be available under this scheme, and this demand under section 74 will continue. And then we have to subject to the section proposed. Another scenario could be that in 73, we have multiple financial years, right? For example, demand is there for, let's say, 1819, 1920, 2021, right? Now 2021 is not covered by this scheme. I wish to go for a scheme only for 1718. Let's say I do not want to go for 1819. So whether that option is available or not, that clarity is required, right? So ideally it should be available as per my experience and understanding, right? And third aspect could be that under the same notice, there could be multiple issues. For example, whenever audit happens of a department, so they issue show-cause notice on multiple issues. It could be on RCM liability. It could be on 2A versus 3B. It could be on some legal issue also, which you wish to contest further. It has a huge liability. Like, so whether the artificial split of the same show cause notice, single show cause notice, covering multiple issues will be allowed or not, whether I will be able to apply into the scheme for example, for two issues. I do not want to go for a balance three issues, whether it will be allowed or not. We have to see, right? So we will wait for this once this section is implemented. And another scenario could be that we have seen sometimes what happens, because you say that maybe because of the pressure from the department, or maybe because you say perceive that the matter is not that good on merit, so you do not want to take that much of risk, or you want to save cost of continuing interest. So what do you pay the tax demand before SCM, during the audit proceedings, or maybe during the investigation proceedings, right? Or during the scrutiny proceedings. And when demand and show cause notice is issued by the department, what they do, they will allege and propose the demand of tax also. And in that, they will also appropriate the tax which you have already paid before the issuance of show cause notice, right? So now what will happen? The basic show cause notice remains is that of demand of tax and consequential interest and penalty. It means this particular situation will also be covered by the scheme. Even if you have already paid the tax before the issuance of show cause notice, but if the show cause notice is appropriating the demand, it means they are giving you the proposal and allegation, raising the demand also, and appropriating whatever you have already paid. And there have been various clarification in past regime also that any payment made during the proceedings is not that payment of tax. It is as good as payment of deposit, right? So we will be able to justify this and able to avail the benefit of scheme. So it is a very beneficial scheme, mostly for small notices or small amounts, and we should relook at all the factors. And now, what would be the next course of action we should take? Because what happens as of now, even 3 days back in one of our clients, there was one order for 1718. And what happened? The department initiated a recovery proceeding, right? And they attached the bank account. Then yesterday we requested them that we wish to avail this scheme. We are ready to pay the tax. So we paid the entire tax by DRC 03, and we requested them to vacate the bank account attachment, and they were happily accepted our argument, and they have vacated the bank account, right? So what I mean, because there will be some situations wherein you might not have filed any appeal against the order, right? For example, for 1718, or maybe for 1819, you have still not filed any appeal because you think that you are waiting maybe for the amnesty scheme. So now is the time you should write an intimation letter now within 2 or 3 days time, citing that this scheme has come. I wish to avail the benefit of this scheme. I wish to pay as per the timelines prescribed in the scheme, and I wish to avail the waiver of interest and penalty. So may please do not recover any taxes from my side as of now, even though I have not filed any appeal, right? Because what happens after a span of 3 months of passing a demand order, department generally initiates recovery proceedings against you. It will give you first recovery notice, and then it will be followed by the bank account attachment. So to avoid those aggressive steps by the department, we should simply write an intimation letter, because department is not aware whether you want to go into the scheme or not, right? So you should write an intimation letter. Even where the case is already going into the appeal, where you have already filed the appeal, Then also you can submit additional submission and write a letter to the appellate authority citing the same scenario, and then they can pass in speaking order. If they can wait till the implementation of the scheme, that is well and fine. And if they cannot wait, then it also fine. We can pursue further, and we will be able to avail the benefit of scheme irrespective of the stage of our case. So that is not an issue. Even if you have got a negative order from the appellate authority, now you are waiting for the tribunal, even then you can go into the scheme. That is not an issue at all. Right? Now the open question, and which is the common question which is coming, because in lot of cases, SSCs have already paid the taxes and interest and penalty and settled the concluded the proceedings. So now they are asking, what about us? We have already incurred huge interest liability. We have already paid the penalty. What would happen to us now? Because the people who have already waiting for the scheme, they are getting benefited. So we have to wait for the final clarity on this aspect whenever the section is implemented. But normally, whenever any amnesty scheme comes, normally no refunds are granted. So whatever taxes and penalties you have already paid, uh, please believe that you will not have any option to claim the refund. If you have to claim the refund, then you have to take a litigative route and you have to file refund application, and then it has to be tested in the courts of law, because it will not have any benefit from your scheme. Because a principle of law is there which says if something is not payable, and if you have already paid to the department, to the government, so it is an unauthorized collection of taxes for which you should claim the refund, right? So we have to wait what happens, and if already time has lapsed, or 2 years or 3 years timeline of payment of taxes has already lapsed, so you can initiate your refund application, because there is no harm in it, and we can wait for in coming 1 or 2 months, and we'll get more clarity on this aspect. Next. So now coming to another change, which is also very important and major development which has come with respect to what happens even in before GST regime in 73 and 74, there were always different timelines for cases involving fraud, tax evasion, and cases not involving any fraud and tax evasion. In GST also, we have a timeline of 3 years and 5 years, right, in 73 and 74. So now they propose section 74A, as per which they are proposing a common timeline for both the cases, whether there is a fraud involvement or whether there is no fraud involvement. So now आप ये मान के चलें कि now after implementation of this provision, the timeline under section 73, which is currently 3 years for passing an order, will actually be increased. It means a prolonged assessment by the department, and for particular financial year, it will be applicable from 24-25 onwards. So now it is not a very good development, but that's what has happened, and they are planning to unify the time limits for 73 and 74. Then second, they are given the extension of time limit for availing the reduced penalty benefit, which is there in 73 as in 74, right? So current period of 30 days will be extended to 60 days, wherein you have a timeline before the issuance of show cause notice or after the issuance of show cause notice. Normally, you have to pay the tax and interest to avail the reduced penalty benefit within 30 days. So that timeline have now been increased to 60 days. So it's a good development. Up, we will discuss another important case. So this is basically implemented because of there were various litigation issues in hostels and PG accommodation industries, right? And after a lot of coaching centers also, they're also offering you now the hostel facility, right? So there were a lot of dispute with respect to classification also, with respect to the GST applicability, whether it is because hostel and PG accommodation is for the purpose of residential purposes of the students, or maybe for the working professionals, right? So now they are proposing a exemption entry, especially for this particular giving benefit to the students and working professional, wherein they are saying that now GST will be exempted if the value of accommodation for these hostels and PG accommodation is up to 20,000 per month and per person, right? Per head. So although they have not specified whether it is applicable for hostel only, they specified that this relief is intended for working professionals and students. So we are assuming that it will be applicable for hostels and PG accommodation. And I'm also believing that it will not be applicable for the hotels, right? Because 9960 is a common entry which is applicable for hotel industry also, right? So if value of supply is up to 20,000 per month per person, no GST will be applied, right? This exemption is yet to get notified, number one. The important condition here is the minimum continuous stay of 90 days should be required. Only then you will be able to avail the benefit of the GST exemption, correct? And they've also specified even for the past cases, means from 1st of July 17 also they will extend this benefit. It means it will give a huge relief to all the litigations happening in this particular industry, right? Because there was industry practice, they were treating it as a residential renting or dwelling and they are not paying any GST, right? So it will benefit them. And now, but there are a couple of issues which I would like to discuss. So the first issue which comes into my mind is about how to determine the value of supply and how to determine the nature of supply. Because normally what happens in hostel, it is not a standalone hostel facility. You sometimes you also get the food facility. You also get the other facility of housekeeping, TV, laundry, and other common playing area, etc. And there's a lot of negative advance rulings on this aspect where they have considered it as a mixed supply under 18%. And there has been one advance ruling in Rajasthan also on that particular part, which is pending before High Court. And also in Gujarat, that is also pending before Gujarat High Court. Although if you look at the particular transaction from the angle that what is the principal component, so that becomes the accommodation service and other are incidental. So if you treat it as a composite supplier, then the entire exemption will be applicable even on the food component, as long as the value of supply is rupees up to 20,000 per month per head, right? Number two. But since there is a litigation there, the government should clarify this aspect also, so that the entire dispute remains put to rest, right? Now, in case of sharing accommodation, so obviously we have to bifurcate the accommodation charges as per the per person criteria, right? Now, if we take one example, now what is happening, there is another angle of classification dispute. Now, what is happening? There have been recent High Court rulings of Madras High Court and Karnataka High Court, and both are detailed judgment. And the issue was there that what would be the GST implication or applicability in case of hostel facility being provided to the students or working women or professionals. So they have held that it is basically is the nature of residential dwelling and the end use. They have applied the end use. End use is the purpose for residence. So it will be exempted under the entry of renting of residential dwelling, right? But if you now see department and government is treating it under the accommodation. Even earlier also in 2018, there was one clarification that also they've treated hostel, guest house under the hotel category. So this also a continuing dispute that also needs a clarification from the government because the classification dispute is there. So we have to see. Now the continuous stay obviously means that 90 days is the continuous stay. So suppose if there is a contract of 90 days stay with a student, but for some reasons he vacate the room or accommodation in 10 days, so the condition will not get fulfilled, and in that case you have to pay GST, right? So if you have to pay GST and you are not treating it under the renting of residential dwelling, which is another aspect, then you have to pay GST. So your contract clauses should also be incorporated like that, right? That if your contract, you are not fulfilling the condition of stay of 90 days, then we have to apply GST from the end of the supply. Now, what will happen if suppose a company has availed the accommodation service for its own staff or fresh graduates or bachelors, right? Right. So what will happen to that? So again, it will depend on the nature of classification. If you are considering as renting of residential dwelling, then if you remember in July 2022, now there is a reverse charge applicable on renting of residential dwelling to registered person. Right? But if you are treating it as an accommodation service, then you will be able to claim the exemption of 20,000 per month person. So that's why the clarity is required on the classification part on this, right? So I've just put across the definition of residential dwelling, but we will be skipping. I have discussed the major crux of it, the clarification and amendment. So now let's go to the another important segment of corporate guarantee, which is the burning issue, especially after retrospective amendment. Sorry, there was no retrospective, prospective amendment from 26th of October 2023, wherein they have deemed 1% valuation in case of corporate guarantee between related persons, right? If any related party is giving corporate guarantee in favor of his own related person to the bank or financial institution, then you have to apply 1% deemed valuation and pay GST under forward charge, right? So now what is happening? Department is treating this particular amendment as if it is retrospective and giving the demand notices since 1st of July 17, right? And especially when the full ITC is available to me, and there is a situation of revenue neutrality, even then they are challenging the GST liability and raising the demand notices. So now the important clarification is coming in, and also retrospective amendment is coming in, wherein they will clarify that this particular 1% deemed valuation will not apply in case of export of services, right? And also where recipient is eligible for full ITC. In both scenarios, if this particular 1% deemed valuation will not apply. So that is a very welcome judgment. It will put to rest a lot of litigation on this aspect, although they have not yet clarified whether not applicability of this 1% deemed valuation means I can go to the proviso to Rule 28, which says that whatever value is charged on the invoice, it will be treated as open market value, right? So whether nil valuation is possible or not, as they have clarified earlier in case of personal guarantee. So that is the question which remains unanswered. And we're also expecting one clarification on this corporate guarantee. So let's wait for the clarification what the government says, then we can touch base again and have a better clarity on this aspect. But where the recipient is eligible for full ITC, so definitely you need not go for the 1% valuation. You can charge, invoice the value as per your own ascertainment, right? But the challenge will remain in case of where the recipient is not eligible for the full ITC, that challenge will remain. For that, we have to go by the challenging on the merits of the case and challenging that it is not a supply under the GST, being just the conditions to the contract which I am fulfilling, and other aspects which we are taking grounds. And on that basis also we can take the interim relief. Next is about import of service. This I will cover with the clarification in upcoming slides, right? Then one new section 11A has been inserted. Think of what is happening. There are some industry practices in few scenarios where the industries might be paying GST at the rate of 5%. Department is saying it should classify under 12%, or there could be other common trade practices which government wish to regularize as per the common trade practice and do not want to go into the further litigation. So for the section 11 here has been notified and it will give the power to the government to notify the regulation of any past cases also. Similarly, IGST refund mechanism will be provided in case of upward price revision after the exports, right? So that is also important change. And there are some changes in returns and procedure, as you are aware. One new return 1A will be implemented at GST portal. So as per that return, what will happen? You will be able to report those supplies which you missed in GSTR1 for that particular tax period. For example, if you are filing return for April month, right? You filed your return on 11th of May. Now you came to know that 2 invoices were misreported, but you have to pay the tax in GSTR 3B on 20th. So now you have a facility that you can file 1A in interim, and that you can report in GSTR 3B. So what will happen? It will ensure there is no mismatch between GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Otherwise, what happened currently? You have to report the particular transaction in next month of GSTR 1. It creates a mismatch between 1 and 3B, and then it creates demand notices and queries from the department. So it will is a good step. But now we have to see what about the ITC claim on the recipient side, because now 2B is also logged at 13th of May. So if I am filing 1A after 13th So what will happen to my GSTR 2B? What will happen to my ITC claim in GSTR 3B? So no clarification or amendment is proposed in this press release. So we have to wait for the same, and we should represent, because once the 1A has been filed and supplier has filed return on time, and you have provided the facility, the government is providing this facility, so I should also be allowing the ITC for that particular period. कुछ ना कुछ उसमें facility उनको लेके आना चाहिए, right? Now the second change is about the B2CL criteria. Is a basic change that they have reduced the limit from 2.5 lakhs to 1 lakhs in case of B2CL interstate supplies invoices. Similarly, 9(9)C applicability is beyond 2 crores. We are also aware since past many years they are following the same scenario. That is fine. Now compulsory filing of GSTR 7 is there, even if there is no TDS reduction in that particular month. But there will not be any late fees. Even if there is no, it's a nil filing, then no late fees. And also you have to report now the invoice wise data. Otherwise, what was happening? You are reporting the GSTN wise data, but now you have to report the invoice wise data. I think it is an important step because it will give the proper reconciliation. Because now department is giving you notices comparison between TDS and GSTR 3B turnover, because there is no invoice wise comparison and TDS is deducted at the time of payments. You are filing GSTR 3B as per your billing, so there is always a difference. So it will ease the compliance at that point. Right. So now we will come to some circulars, and then we will shift to the next section by Saurabh. So first circular I'll be taking about the 209 place of supply in case of supply of goods to unregistered goods. So for example, I am in Noida, right? And I go to Nehru Place, a laptop. I buy a laptop. I ask the supplier, please give me a laptop. I do not have any GST registration, right? So earlier there were disputes how to determine the place of supply, whether he will charge CGST and HGST, assuming that the delivery of that laptop will terminate in Delhi or delivery will terminate in Noida, or he has to charge the IGST. So to clarify that, they inserted one clause, overriding clause in IGST Act 10(1)(ca) with effect from 1st of October 2023, wherein they have mentioned the place of supply in this case would be the address which is mentioned on the invoice by the supplier. So whatever address which I am giving to my supplier, that will be the determining point for the place of supply. So if I have given the address for Delhi or maybe for the Noida, so as per that, they will determine the place of supply. And even the location of state is also sufficient because there is no issue of ITC claim, right? But the issue was coming in case of especially e-commerce transaction, wherein what was happening, for example, I am ordering from Amazon. I am sitting in Jaipur, and my billing address is of Jaipur, but I am getting deliver any goods in Noida, Delhi, or Bangalore, or maybe to any other location outside my state, Rajasthan, right? So now there was ambiguity in terms of how to determine the place of supply, whether it will be a delivery address or it will be a billing address. So now they have clarified by the circular that the delivery address will be treated as the place of supply. That will be the determining point and not the billing address, right? So now all the suppliers and e-commerce companies have to tweak their system to correctly determine the place of supply. That is the change which is happening. But what is my suggestion here is that this particular thing, this clarification is not directly coming from the section itself, because section only says address. It does not say delivery address. It does not say billing address. So my proposal to the government is that you should amend the law itself and suitably clarify by way of explanation or something, so that the challenge to the circular is not done in the future point of time, right? Because circular should also not go beyond the provisions of the law that we all know, right? So now this is again a very important section. So now here what is happening? I'll take one example. For example, you know McDonald's, right? We all eat burgers of McDonald's and we love them. So McDonald's is a global company, right? It has a parent company, let's say in US or UK. It has an Indian base in Delhi. let's say now they are using a brand name, right? They're using a brand name, they are using a royalty, maybe they are using some technical know-how, an intellectual property right or something, right? But now these both related parties, the parent company and Indian company, right? The foreign company and Indian company are related, for example. But now there is no flow of consideration for this particular usage of brand name and royalty, right? But now there is entry number I will just quote here in Schedule 1. What does it say? Import of services by a person from related person or from any of his other establishment in the course or furtherance of business. इसका मतलब क्या हो गया? इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि शेड्यूल 1 के अंदर ये डीम सप्लाई में चला गया, तो मतलब मेरे को आरसीएम में जीएसटी की लायबिलिटी पे करनी पड़ेगी, चाहे वहां पे कंसीडरेशन हो चाहे नहीं हो, राइट? इवन विदाउट कंसीडरेशन आई हैव टू पे जीएसटी अंडर आरसीएम. So now what happened in many cases, maybe because of confusion or maybe because they have not determined कि भाई जब मेरा कोई consideration ही नहीं है तो मैंने कोई सर्विस अवेल ही नहीं करी, राइट? तो दो तरह के यहाँ पे इश्यूज आए जिसपे जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट चैलेंज रेस करता है एसएससीज को, राइट? तो पहला इसमें ये था कि भाई मैंने वहां पे जीएसटी का पेमेंट किया ही नहीं आरसीएम में, दैट वाज वन सिनेरियो. सिनेरियो 2 का था मैंने पेमेंट तो कर दिया पर अपने हिसाब से कोई वैल्यूएशन निकाल के, हो सकता है कि इसकी ओपन मार्केट वैल्यू है जो उसकी एक्चुअल कॉस्ट होनी थी 100 रुपए, राइट, 100 रुपीज. बट आई पेड जीएसटी ओनली ऑन ₹10 by taking reports of second provision to rule 28 which says that where recipient is eligible for full ITC, so any value declared in the invoice I can take it as a open market value, right? So now they have clarified both these cases and given a very welcome clarification. So I will also like to clarify one more aspect here. भाई जहां पे भी आरसीएम पेमेंट की बात आती है तो वहां पे recipient is liable to pay GST and also liable to raise self invoice under section 31(3)(f), right? So now what they have clarified, if I have already raised the self invoice, means the recipient means the Indian company, then whatever value I have declared in the self invoice will be treated as my open market value, means provision to rule 28 will be applicable. In those cases जहां पे ITC, full ITC is available to the recipient, right? But if I have not raised any invoice, then also they have clarified that nil valuation will be applicable. So this is a welcome change here. तो जहां पे अगर किसी भी इंडियन कंपनी ने अगर जीएसटी का पेमेंट नहीं किया है उन सर्टेन ट्रांजेक्शन जो शेड्यूल 1 के अंदर डीम सप्लाई में कवर होती थी, तो वहां पे अगर रिलेटेड पार्टी है, फुल आईटीसी है, तो मेरे को निल वैल्यूएशन का बेनिफिट मिल जाएगा, मेरे को कोई भी जीएसटी पे करने की जरूरत नहीं है. इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि उन्होंने एक तरह से गवर्नमेंट हैज नाउ एक्सेप्टेड द सिचुएशन ऑफ रेवेन्यू न्यूट्रलिटी इन केस ऑफ फुल आईटीसी. This is a very important aspect. So major relief is expected in all these cases. जैसा कि हमने बात करी, रॉयल्टी, ब्रांड नेम, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स, ऐसी सेकॉन्डमेंट के भी बहुत सारे केसेस चल रहे थे जिसमें लिटिगेशन भी चल रहा था. हाई कोर्ट के अंदर भी केसेस गए. फिर डिपार्टमेंट ने एक इंस्ट्रक्शन निकाला था कि जो एक नॉर्दर्न ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम का जो जजमेंट आया था सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, it will not be blanketly applied in all the situation. It has to see the facts and circumstances of these cases, right? So this is a very important judgment. If you can recall, this similar kind of clarification arrived in July 23 by circular number 199, but that was only limited to transaction between distinct person, and that too also internally generated. Internally generated means where head office is there, branch office is there, head office having its own top management and directors sitting, and they are also providing this managing the entire company operation. So in a way they are giving a deemed supply to the different branch offices or factory location. Whereas third party service is different, where I am first I am availing some service, I am receiving some invoices, means HO is receiving some invoices, and then it is being attributed to the other branch offices. So clarification 199 was only applicable to distinct person. There also they have clarified about the nil valuation. So now my 2 cents on this aspect, that if government has accepted that nil valuation is possible where the recipient is eligible for full ITC, number one, right? Now Rule 28, if we read the Rule 28, it is applicable on both cases, distinct person as well as related person, whether supply of goods or supply of service, whether domestic related or cross-border transaction. So my question is why the nil valuation should not apply to all these cases, even though there is no direct clarification. Because the ratio remains the same, the provision remains the same, so it should apply to all the cases in my opinion. Although they have not given the direct clarification, they have selectively applied to certain situations. And department will definitely raise litigation. We are also under litigation in some cases where there was a related party transaction, a domestic, and now we are challenging the valuation also and also challenging the proviso, taking benefit of proviso to Rule 28. So summarizing all the scenarios here. So in case of distinct person, there could be three kinds of transaction: supply of service, internal and state, right? So as I already mentioned, circular number 199 already covered this. Nil valuation, only nil valuation is applicable. Supply of service, no circular, but the same ratio should be applicable. In goods also, stock transfer के केस में भी कोई same ratio apply होना चाहिए. क्योंकि भाई रूल तो एक ही है ना, प्रोविजन तो एक ही है जो सब पे अप्लाई हो रहा है. डोमेस्टिक रिलेटेड पर्सन में भी डायरेक्ट क्लैरिफिकेशन नहीं है, पर ऑल्दो दे हैव स्पेसिफिकली क्लैरिफाइड कि भाई जो पैरा 2 एंड पैरा 3.5 जो 210 नंबर का सर्कुलर आया है कि प्रोविजन इज एप्लीकेबल, ऑल्दो नील वैल्यूएशन पे दे आर साइलेंट, बट अगेन रेशियो शुड अप्लाई. इंपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विस के केस में तो दे हैव ऑलरेडी क्लैरिफाइड, सो वी आर ऑलरेडी विल गेट द बेनिफिट आउट ऑफ इट. चलिए आगे बढ़ते. So up now, third clarification I'll be discussing about. एक बेसिक अपन एग्जांपल लेते हैं अगेन. ये एक मैंने सिनेरियो बनाया है कि जहाँ पे कोई भी फॉरेन कंपनी होती है, राइट, और एक इंडियन कंपनी है. इंडियन कंपनी के एम्प्लॉयज हैं, जो फॉरेन कंपनी के शेयर्स फॉरेन में लिस्टेड है. नाउ इंडियन कंपनी इज गिविंग ईसॉप ऑप्शन टू देयर एम्प्लॉयज, बट ईसॉप किसके होंगे? ऑफ द फॉरेन कंपनी. तो होता क्या है कि जब ईसॉप का ऑप्शन मेरे को मिला, so I have got the issuance of shares directly from the overseas company, from the foreign company, right? On the request of whom? On the request of Indian company. और जो भी उसकी कॉस्ट होगी, whatever the cost of that ESOP, that will be reimbursed by the Indian company to the overseas company. So now the clarification has come on the GST implication on the different aspects. The first aspect is about the issuance of security and share by the foreign company to Indian employees. तो वहां पे उन्होंने कह दिया कि भाई देखिए, गुड्स और सर्विसेज की डेफिनेशन में सिक्योरिटीज आती नहीं है, राइट. जब वो आती नहीं तो इसका मतलब कि वो जीएसटी लॉ से बाहर हो, करेक्ट. तो इसलिए वहां पे कोई भी जीएसटी का इम्प्लीकेशन नहीं आने वाला है. और ये एम्प्लॉयर और एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप भी होता है, तो कवर्ड बाय शेड्यूल 3 है, तो वहां पे भी आप पे कोई जीएसटी इम्प्लीकेशन नहीं आएगा, राइट. कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट बेसिस का जो रिइंबर्समेंट है उसमें भी उन्होंने कह दिया कि भाई कोई भी जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. पर रीजनिंग क्या दी है? रीजनिंग थी बिकॉज दिस रिइंबर्समेंट इज आल्सो फॉर ट्रांसफर ऑफ सिक्योरिटी व्हिच इज नॉट ए सप्लाई. दैट्स व्हाई ओनली रिइंबर्समेंट पे आपका जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. अगर आपने कोई एडिशनल फी या मार्कअप चार्ज किया है तभी आपको जीएसटी की लायबिलिटी आएगी रिलेटेड आरसीएम के केस में. ऐसे ही लोनिंग के ट्रांजेक्शन में उन्होंने कह दिया है कि भाई वहां पे कोई भी इंटरेस्ट पे तो जीएसटी लगता ही नहीं है, और अलग से एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कॉस्ट को मेरे को जब तक मैं अगर उसकी चार्जिंग नहीं कर रहा हूँ तो मेरे को उस पर जीएसटी चार्ज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. एंड उसके बाद में आईटीसी क्रेडिट ऑन डक्ट्स एंड मैनोल्स के केस में भी उन्होंने क्लेरिफाई कर दिया है कि ओएफसी के केस में डक्ट्स एंड मैनोल्स में मेरे को आईटीसी मिलेगी, उस पर कोई भी डिस्प्यूट नहीं है. फिर कुछ उसके बाद में मॉनेटरी लिमिट्स उन्होंने फिक्स करी है डिपार्टमेंट अपील्स के केस में, जहां पे अगर मैं ट्रिब्यूनल में जाऊंगा या हाई कोर्ट में जाऊंगा या सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाऊंगा तो वहां पे लिमिट फिक्स कर दी है. 20 लाख के ट्रिब्यूनल के केस में है, हाई कोर्ट में 1 करोड़ की है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 2 करोड़ की लिमिट है. ये हम बात करें जहां पे अगर डिपार्टमेंट अपील में जाना चाह रहा है. अगर एसएससी अपील में जाना चाहता है तो वहां पे तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. तो एक बार आई विल कंक्लूड माय सेशन एंड आई विल रिक्वेस्ट सौरभ to start his session. Fit then time will permit, so I will come back and take some other important judgments. So over to Saurabh, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil sir. And also, I would like to thank Arun sir for organizing this webinar for benefit of each and every one of us. and also allowing us to, share our views on the latest circulars and all the recent changes which are being done by the government. So how we are gonna proceed is, first we are gonna be taking the circulars which have been issued, and then the important other changes which were recommended by the GST Council meeting in its 53rd GST Council meeting. So starting with, first is circular number 208, which has given clarification regarding various issues which were being faced by the SSEs. Basically, for those SSEs which are manufacturers of tobacco and such related products. So there was a notification which was issued on in January 24, which required that all such manufacturers of tobacco and related products, they were required to file two forms. Basically, one is SRM1 and another is SRM2. So in these forms, basically what was required from them was they needed they to declare whatever packing machines they were using for producing such tobacco and related products. So they were required to register such machines on the GST portal. And also then in SRM02, they were required to file monthly returns, indicating like how much production they have done, how much raw material they have procured, and all such details. So while filing such forms, naturally there are many issues which are coming, because when we are applying the uh, returns to be done on a practical basis, we are always facing one or the other issue. So here in SRM1, people were facing one issue, that there were certain machines which were very old, or they were procured as a second hand machine, and therefore the owner of such packing machines, they were not knowing like what is the make number, model number, and machine number was also not available in many cases. So what was done was, here CBIC has clarified that in such cases where you don't have such numbers, the make and model number are optional. So this was the first thing. However, they have again said that if you don't have the make number of the machine, what you should do is you should at least report the number year in which such machine was purchased. And as regards the model number, so if you are not having model number, there is no issue in that. And in case of machine number which was also required to be reported in SRM1, generally, while purchasing such machines, there is a number embedded into it. But if you don't have such number, what you should do is you should internally assign certain numbers to such machines. Say, if I have 5 machines, I should allocate a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I should report such number in SRM1. Next clarification was very important. It was again like in such case where you have procured a machine, but you don't have the details of the electricity consumption by that machine. So in such case, it is clarified now, which we were even suggesting our clients also, that what they should do is they should ask the chartered engineer, a certified chartered engineer, to calculate how much electricity consumption would be done by such machine on per hour basis, and then report such detail in SRM1. First and foremost, the chartered engineer, who can be the chartered engineer who certifies or gives certificate related to such machines, it has been clarified now that he should be a member of IEI, Institute of Engineers India. So this is also again, we need to check whenever our clients are bringing such SRM forms to be filed, we need to check that the chartered engineer is also a member of IEI. Another important point that was raised was that we need to report MRP in SRM2 form, but in certain cases, like we are exporting the goods or so, the MRP was not mentioned. So it was clarified by the circular that in such cases you should report the sale price of such goods. It has been also clarified that the SEZ is not required to follow this special procedure. So this is also a relief to SEZ. And also it is clarified that if you are having such machines where you are doing manual processes, there is no automatic machine, but you are doing manual processes and then sealing the containers or the packages. In such cases also, you are not required to follow the special procedure. SRM 1.2 won't be applicable in your case. And another genuine issue which was faced by many people was like there were multiple machines on which I was working. Like there were three machines. On one machine I was doing certain assembling or capping part, and then in the another one I was doing certain other part. And in such cases it is now clarified that if you are doing a packing process on three different machines, then which details of machines you are required to report in SRM1. So now it is clarified that the machine in which you are doing the final packaging of the product, that machine you need to report over here. And last clarification which was given in this circular was like it is very normal in the course of business that sometimes we are manufacturing the product on our own, and in some cases we are giving it on job work or on contract basis to some other person. So in such cases what should be done? This part was also a case of representation which was being made by industry to the government. So this is now clarified. Then in case of job work or contract manufacturing also, this special procedure needs to be followed. That means job worker, contract manufacturer, they would be required to file such SRM 1 and 2 forms. Also, but it is clarified that in case such job worker, contract manufacturer are not registered in GST, then the liability to report details of their details basically would be of the principal manufacturer who has given contract to them to to manufacture such product. Moving on, the next clarification which we are discussing is very important and mostly applicable for many of our clients. And this basic clarification is regarding raising of self-invoice in case of procurement made from an unregistered person, and on such procurement RCM is payable either under section 9.3 or 9.4. So the basic issue which was lingering on was, say if I have not issued a self-invoice within time, I came to know about a certain transaction being taxable under RCM in the next financial year, when the time limit for taking ITC was also expired. So after 2 years, I'm coming to know in some GST audit or something audit done by my consultant that such transaction was taxable under RCM. Then the issue that was coming for all was that whether I should pay the GST now under RCM, but whether I'll be eligible to take credit on the same, because the normal time period in which the transaction has been happened in the financial year in which the transaction happened, the time limit for taking ITC has already expired. So in such cases, what should be the call on taking of such ITC? So it is clarified very beautifully in this circular, that which is definitely very useful for everyone, that as per section 31(3)(f), first and foremost for taking ITC you need to raise self-invoice. And in cases where you have raised self-invoice by delay, say after 2 years, then also the year in which you are raising the self-invoice, based on such financial year, the time limit for taking ITC would be applicable. Say, for financial year 2017-18, say I was required to pay some RCM, but I paid the RCM in after 2 years in say 1920. So when the time limit was already expired, but I raised the invoice in 1920, then the time limit to take ITC in such cases would be of 1920, that is September 20. So this is a very good clarification which has been given. And another important aspect which has been given, which has been mentioned clearly in the circular is, in cases you are raising invoice say after 2 years or with delay, you will definitely be liable to pay interest, because the time of supply would have happened before only, in the year in which the transaction would have happened. Plus, you would also be liable to pay penalty under section 122, because you have raised invoice, but it is a belated issuance of invoice. So this is also again important one. As per section 122, now what should be the penalty? Because if you refer 122, it will definitely, if you recollect, it is mentioned that the penalty would be higher of 10,000 or the tax evaded. So here you're not evading any tax as you have already paid. So in our view, the maximum penalty in such cases which can be levied is 10,000 in CGST and 10,000 in SGST. And in cases of IGST, 20,000. So after this important clarification, we are moving to the very common situation faced by every taxpayer. And for this, we have received many queries also in YouTube chat box. This clarification is regarding like issuance of GST credit note for after sale or after supply discounts which are given to say my dealers or my customers. So the situation is, as per section 15(3)(b), it is mentioned that in case you are giving any discount to your customer after the supply has happened, so what all important aspects you need to take care is, first, like there should be a relation between the discount and the supply which has happened. You should be able to identify. Another important aspect which has been mentioned is that there should be an agreement, predetermined agreement before the supply itself, that you are gonna give this discount afterwards. And the third important aspect which was mentioned in 15(3) is, like if you are giving such a discount, post-sale discount, then the corresponding ITC which was availed by your customer on issuance of the invoice, it should be reversed by your customer. So these 2-3 conditions were very important for giving such post-supply discounts. Now, what the practical situation was coming we were facing were that the supplier, basically, he was giving the discounts, he was issuing credit notes, but what was happening was he was not able to get a confirmation from his customers or dealers that they have reduced such ITC. So on his part, the demands were being raised by department officers that he should have actually got a confirmation from his customers or dealers that they have reduced ITC, and on the basis of such confirmation only, we would be allowing you to reduce your tax liability by issuance of GST credit note. So this was very important aspect. Based on this, we advise our clients, basically we were earlier also advising our clients, what to do was take a self-declaration from your customer that he has reduced such ITC. Because GST portal does not allow any such option, any such mechanism, and the same has been, accepted in this circular also, that there is no such mechanism available on the GST portal to get acceptance of the customer that he has reduced his ITC. So now what has been proposed and clarified in the circular is what a supplier needs to do to get such confirmations. And this particular thing is only till the time such a mechanism is introduced by the GST portal. So it has been clearly mentioned that in such cases where in a financial year, first thing, for a recipient where the tax amount involved, that is IGST, CGST, SGST and cess, in all such credit notes which you have given to one recipient, if the amount involved is more than 5 lakh rupees, then in such cases, you need to ask your customer to issue or to procure a CA certificate certifying that the corresponding ITC, the proportionate ITC, has been reduced by your recipient. So definitely this is a clarification, but slightly it would be burdensome on all the suppliers to get such clarification, to get such C8 certificates from their recipients. So this is very important. I'm going to repeat, like for in a financial year, for one single recipient, what we need to do is we need to check whether all the credit notes which we have given, the tax amount involved, if it is more than rupees 5 lakh, tax amount means IGST, CGST, SGST or cess, whatever is applicable on such credit notes. If it is more than 5 lakhs, then you need to get a C8 certificate from your recipient. And in such CA certificates also it is mentioned like certain details which are very important and which needs to be incorporated in such CA certificate is first details of the credit notes, second relevant details of invoices also against which such credit notes are issued, third is a supporting in the form of DRC03 or say in whichever return I have reduced my recipient has reduced such ITC. So that document, that ITC reversal proof also needs to be attached with that CA certificate. And third is UDIN generated by the CA or CMA. So yeah, I'd like to correct, the certificate can be obtained from CA or CMA, both. And such four things are essential ingredients of such certificate. Then only the supplier would be able to reduce his liability. Now, in cases where the such amount is less than 5 lakh, a simple this certificate from the customer or the recipient would be enough. So it is also clarified that in some cases which are still going on, the litigation which is going on in similar cases where such confirmation is not obtained, so this clarification will apply to such clarifications also. So as we have discussed, obtaining the CA certificates, CMA certificates would be a little bit difficult proposition which has come now, but still we need to, to justify our tax reduction by credit notes, we need to procure such certificates or declarations. Another one query which was raised in the chat box of YouTube was like, if a person has raised an invoice, say today, and today only he has raised GST credit note also. So whether this clarification is applicable for such cases also. So in my opinion, basically what I understand is firstly the invoice would have been made. So I can say the supply has been made and then such post-sale credit note for giving discount was raised. So in that way, this clarification would be applicable on such cases also. So therefore, if you don't want to get into this exercise, what should be done is in the invoice itself, you give the discount. In case if you are giving such discount in the invoice itself, since you are issuing the same documents, invoice and credit notes on the same day, what will happen is this unnecessary exercise of procuring CA certificate or declaration would be avoided. Moving on to the next clarification, which is a very important one. This is basically in addition to the clarification given by the circular number 195, which was issued in July 23. There it was clarified like in cases of warranty or extended warranty which are given, there are certain cases where we are, uh, giving the parts or such some parts of the, say a machine are being replaced. In such cases, what should be the GST treatment on what should be the GST liability of the person who is giving such parts for basically free of cost at the time of replacing? What would be the ITC implications in such cases? So there a major issue was, say if the parts were being very much clarified by circular number 195, but what if the machine itself is replaced now? So in such cases, what will happen? So the broadly what has been clarified, that the same thing which has been clarified by circular number 195, same thing will apply for the machine also if it is being replaced. So since it is, again, we need to discuss this important aspect, that in cases of warranty, basically the price is already included in the warranty. If we are giving at the time of supply, I have already given such warranty, say for 2-3 years, for many electronic products or such electrical products, it is coming. So such value is already incorporated in my consideration, which I have already recovered. So in cases where goods are replaced, so in that at that time there would be no requirement to either pay GST or reverse any ITC. So this is the first thing which has came out of this circular. Also, it is happening many times that there is a original manufacturer who has various dealers or various distributors in all over India. And I have a customer in, say, Tamil Nadu, and he has purchased my product, OEM's product from a shop from a distributor's shop in Tamil Nadu. What is being done is the customer will definitely reach out to the distributor and say that this product was in warranty and now it is not working, so please replace it. So what the distributor is doing is he's using his own stock and replacing the product. So in that case, what is happening is naturally the OEM, the original manufacturer, he would be replenishing that particular machine, that particular goods to the distributor again. So because distributor is doing it on behalf of the OEM only. And therefore, in such cases also it is clarified there is no need to reverse any ITC because it is only a replenishment which is being done on behalf of the OEM. And lastly, one more important clarification which has been given, which was missing in 185 circular, earlier circular, it is that in cases where I've say supplied a product, and then what is happening is I am giving an option to the customer to buy extended warranty. So this is happening, say, after my supply has happened, or at the time itself, I am creating a separate policy for extended warranty. So in such cases, it has been clarified that such extended warranty, if these are being given separately, they would be treated as services. And based on treating them as services, you'd be required to pay necessary taxes. Coming on to the next circular, maybe will be going through it fast because it won't be applicable to much of the masses, I think. Like it is determination of place of supply in case custodial services are being provided, and those services are being provided by bank to FPIs, foreign portfolio investors. So it is clarified that basically there was issue coming that whether the POS should be determined based on section 13.2 or section 13.8. Section 13.2 says place of supply will be location of recipient, and section 13.8 it referred to the place of supply of the bank, from where it has been such services have been given. And there 13.8 discussed basically in case of banking services where you're giving any services to your account holders. Basically, the term used was account holders. So in such cases, place of supply would be of the bank itself, where the bank is located. But now it has been clarified, taking a basic rationale from the education guide which was there in Service Tax Law, that the custodian services provided by banks to FPIs are not included in the definition of account holder. Therefore, Section 13.8 won't be applicable in this case, and Section 13.2 would be applicable in such a case. Moving on to the next slide. This is important, yet another important clarification for persons who are dealing in construction of works contractors. So there is a very common model which is being used nowadays for such contracts, which is HEM model, hybrid annuity mode model, where the thing is that the works contractor is basically assigned with the dual responsibility, first to build such road, and then for remaining say 10-15 years they are asked to maintain the roads also. And accordingly, based on that consideration, some of the consideration is given at the time during the time of construction phase, and then part of the consideration is given by annuity model and over the period of say 10-15 years when he is required to maintain such roads. So first and foremost thing which has been mentioned in the circular is that such contract is basically indivisible. So therefore you cannot consider and say there are two considerations involved. It is one consideration only which is given in parts. And definitely, since it is a very big project for long term, we are doing such works contractors are constructing this road, it is covered into continuous supply of services. So now on the issue of time of supply, that when the tax should be paid, basically in case of services, we can discuss first that if the invoice is issued within the specified date, like as per law, if it is required, it needs to be issued within 30 days from the date of completion of project or completion of your services. Then the time of supply would be date of issuance of invoices or date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. And if the invoice is not issued within time, then the time of supply would be date of provision of service. That is when the actually the service has been given, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. There is, since the invoice has not been issued within time, so time of supply is dealing from the date of issuance of invoice, and date of provision of service comes into play. So in case of continuous supply of services also, same is the case, that there is a contract which already mentions generally that the payment would be done on the stage by stage completion of work. So basically, in such cases, it is clarified that whatever happens first, if the works happen first, if you have correctly raised invoice within the time limit prescribed after the completion of work or the date of receiving of payment, earlier of these three will be the date of issuance of invoice. Basically, in case of continuous supply of services. In using that analogy, it is now clarified that in case invoice is issued within the specified date, then which is basically the stages which have been given in the HEM contract. So there it is clarified that date of issuance of invoice or date of receiving of payment, earlier of these will be the time of supply. And if invoice is not issued within that stage which has been mentioned in the contract, then date of provision, when actually invoice should have been raised, or date of receipt of payment, that is given as the time of supply. Very important aspect, and another thing which has been given is uh, the consideration which is being given in annuity. There is some interest component included, because definitely if somebody is being given annuity, he is receiving his consideration late, so some interest amount is included in such consideration. At the time of entering contract itself, these conditions are mentioned. So it is clarified again, which we were otherwise practicing also, that such interest amount is also included in the taxable value as per section 15(2)(d). So this was regarding all the circulars which we have discussed. We have basically discussed the crux of all the circulars. If we have any issue, we can definitely discuss them in detail in question answer sessions also. And now we are moving on to the certain recommendations which were given, very important recommendations which were given in 53rd GST Council meeting. First was with related to ITC relaxations. 2-3 relaxations which were given were like there were multiple show cause notices, orders, and litigation which were going on for the earlier period of GST, where there were cases where the suppliers had not filed their GSTR 3B within the due date of taking ITC. That is the last date of taking ITC, which the department was saying that for say generally for a financial year, then September of the next financial year, and its 3B date would be the due date for taking of ITC, right? So say for financial year 1920, September 20, the due date of filing GSTR 3B of September 20, which is 20th October, it will be the last date of taking ITC. But what was happening was, due to some say payment issues or some other issues, the suppliers, they were not able to, recipient was not able to file their returns within such period. and they were filing the returns after a gap of 1 year or 2 years, whatever. So now, to settle such issues, it has been a major relaxation has been given in by, a retrospective amendment would be done in section 16.4, and it will be mentioned that for the financial year 17-18 to 2021, the last date of taking ITC would be 30th November 2021. So this is very important one. So in all such cases where the recipient has filed his return up to 30/11/2021, ITC would be available to them. And again, the notification which will come, the amendment which will come, would clarify that what about cases where we have already paid such amount and closed the issue. In such cases, what should be done? So that we need to wait for the notification also, but generally from seeing from the past practices, such relaxations of taking refund are not given. Next clarification which is recommended and such amendments have been recommended is, say in case I am working but my registration was cancelled due to some XYZ issue, but after say 1-2 years, when the time limit to take ITC has already expired, I come and I say, please revoke my registration. And there may be various cases. Some technical issues were also there for which due to which revocation of cancellation could not be made, and due to some other issues also the taxpayer was very he was not knowing or he was ignorant of the fact. And after 1-2 years they come and say, please revoke my cancellation of registration. So here what has been clarified is, if the returns from the date of cancellation to the date of revocation, if they are being filed within 30 days of order of revocation, then it will be mentioned in section 64 that such ITC can be availed. So this was an important amendment which was actually missing in section 16.4. Say if a person's registration is being revoked after say 2 years, so by going through law, ITC won't be available to him. But therefore such amendment was very necessary in section 16.4, and it has been mentioned if within 30 days of order of revocation the person has filed his returns, then such ITC would be available to him. This we have already discussed. Now it has been clarified by the circular also regarding raising of self-invoice and taking ITC. And now very important regarding appellate proceedings, very important changes which have been recommended are, like, there was we were discussing many a times, representations were being made that pre-deposit amount is too high in GST as compared to earlier law and everything. So it was regular, and people were representing to reduce such pre-deposit amount. To an extent, some relaxations have been given. We have portrayed like what would be the current what is the current pre-deposit as per law, and what would be the proposed pre-deposit as per this council minutes. So here it has been given that if we say in percentage terms, currently 10% of the disputed tax was required to be paid as a pre-deposit while while filing appeal to first appellate authority after receiving of the order against SCM. And for filing appeal to GST tribunal, 20% additional amount of the remaining tax amount in dispute was needed to be paid. So totally 30% was required to be paid. Now this percentage has been reduced to 20%. For the appellate authority, there is no change. 10% you need to pay. But for filing appeal to GST tribunal, additionally 10% only needs to be paid. So this is in terms of percentage, like what amount you need to pay. Similarly, there is a maximum amount also which has been mentioned in the law. So for appellate authority, this amount was currently 25 crores and 25 crores in CGST and SGST. We are taking example of CNS only right now. And this has been proposed to be reduced to 20 crores in CGST and 20 in SGST. And for filing appeal to GST tribunal, this amount was quite high. It is actually right now currently very high, which is 50 crores maximum in C and S each. And this amount is also proposed to be reduced to 20 plus 20 crores. So this amount is, very much reduce, and based on this, people would be, very much in relief, as it will be reducing their working capital requirement also. But still, I guess some percentage terms also this amount should be reduced. Also, it has been clarified that for filing appeal to GST tribunal, 3 months time limit would be started from a date which will be further notified. So the confusion which was coming in terms of issuance of the ROD and recent uh, appointment of president of GST tribunal, so that has come to rest, and it has been mentioned that a date will be notified, and from such date you will be able to file the appeal. Another important aspect for filing appeal was, say, in case I had already paid some amount in DRC 03 under protest or anything. So at the time of filing appeal on the GST portal, whenever I was mentioning 10% say as a pre-deposit while filing appeal to appellate authority, the GST portal, 10%, the whole amount of that disputed tax, it used to make me, make such payment. It asked me to make such payment at the time of filing appeal. So what option was available with us was either to make such payment, or to reduce such amount of pre-deposit manually to zero in cases where the whole amount has been already paid by DRC. And in case partial amount was paid, then what practical solution was available with us was to make the pre-deposit percentage to zero and pay the remaining amount of pre-deposit through DRC and mention such facts in the appeal. So a clarification on such part also would be issued, and a mechanism will be available on at the time of filing GSTR 3B to adjust any such amount against the pre-deposit. So this is again a welcome clarification or mechanism which would be required for all. Other important, very important, I must say, clarification which has came was, there will be a amendment in section Rule 88B, which mainly deals with calculation of interest. And in such rule, it has been mentioned that where you have filed a certain return with delay, say I'm filing it with delay of, instead of filing it on 20th, I'm filing it on 25th. But currently what is happening is, if you are having sufficient balance of ITC, then no interest is payable. But what about cash? Say your 80% is available in ITC, but 20% is there in cash. But you have not filed return on 20th and you're filing it on 25th. There are two situations. First situation is you are making payment on 25th. In such cases, interest will be applicable on that 20% amount which you have deposited in cash. Another situation is where I have already paid such 20% on the 20th itself. I have deposited such amount in cash ledger, electronic cash ledger on GST portal. In such cases, it is clarified that if such amount is maintained in the electronic cash ledger from the due date till the date when such GST return is filed, then no interest would be applicable. But this leaves us with various situations where we were facing issues. We would face issues now also. Those things will still be part of litigation. Is, say, where I had certain liability, I had deposited cash also, certain RCM liability, say, and I had deposited cash, but I had not set off such liability in my GSTR 3B, but such cash is still there. And when audit comes and they find out, then I came to know that such cash is there in my cash ledger itself, and I have not paid such amount. So in those cases, still that clarification is not applicable, and in such cases, definitely litigation regarding interest would be there. Another important aspect for exporters is that on making payment of IGST in cases of zero rated supplies, it is clarified that you'd be getting a refund directly from customs once shipping bill is filed and your returns are properly filed and you have paid all the taxes. So automatic refund comes. But what in case where situations are such that there is upward revision in the price of such exported goods, and then you are issuing a GST debit note and making payment of IGST on such GST debit notes. So currently there was no mechanism available to claim refund of such excess tax paid. So such a mechanism is being now proposed to be introduced, and exporters would be eligible to get refund based on tax paid on such GST debit notes. So this clarification should have been, a bit more lenient, covering all the debit notes, because debit notes may also be raised because of multiple reasons. One of the reason is upward price revision, but other reasons also might be there, like there is difference in foreign exchange rate or something. So due to that also sometimes GST debit note is being issued, or cases where, you know by mistake you have mentioned $100 instead of $1,000. So in such cases also you need to make payment through debit notes. So those cases should also have been included over here, but only one part upward revision of price, that is only covered by this clarification. This is also rollout. Basically, we were also aware that in multiple states this biometric Aadhaar authentication has already been implemented, and now it has been decided to implement it on all India basis. So basically there would be a GST Suvidha Kendra. There you will be required to go, the director of the company, the partner, proprietor would be required to travel to such place where you are getting the registration. Say I'm there in Rajasthan, I have taken a new GST registration in Tamil Nadu. I'd be required to go to Tamil Nadu, to that GST Suvidha Kendra, where appointment will be given to me, prior appointment will be given to me, and there I need to go and put my biometric and get my Aadhaar authenticated. Certain important uh, GST rate changes are, like in cases of cartons, boxes, it has been decided to reduce the GST rate from 18% to 12%. And also, very important aspect for like pipe industries, pipe manufacturing industries was that they were manufacturing sprinklers, and there was a confusion like what GST rate should be applicable on fire water sprinklers which are installing in our offices and everything. Like there should be 12% GST rate or 18% GST rate. So now it is clarified, and basically the past practices are also regularized, that even in cases we have paid less amount of GST now, or higher amount of GST, now it is clarified that on sprinklers, all type of sprinklers, 12% GST rate would be applicable. And another important aspect for Indian Railway services is for general public. This is beneficial to all. That on sale of platform tickets, like facility of retiring rooms or waiting rooms which are there in railway station, services would be exempted from. GST would be exempted on such services, and such exemption would be applicable from October 23, 20th October 23. Then there are certain amendments which are there made in anti-profiteering cases also, because now such anti-profiteering committee would come to rest, and such powers would be transferred to principal bench of GST. So now there is a sunset date which has been given, that if any such application you need to give to the anti-profiteering committee, you should give such applications by 1st April 2025. And for SEZ, very important clarification which has come, which was missing earlier, was that exemption has been given from compensation cess, where imports are being done by SEZ units or developers for authorized operation. And such exemption would date back to July 17. Next is regarding e-commerce operators. For e-commerce operators, it has been very important, this part has come, is the TCS which they are required to deduct. So that TCS rate has been reduced from 1% to 0.5%. So basically the benefit of this will go to the persons against which who are using services of e-commerce operators and supplying their goods or services. So for them, a working capital, basically that will be relieved, and for them it will be beneficial since there is rate in deduction of TCS. And it is clarified that penalty provisions which were introduced for e-commerce operators under section 122(1)(b), those will be applicable only for those persons who are required to collect TCS and not for other e-commerce operators on which such TCS liability is not there. So with this, I would like to close my presentation. Nikhil sir, if you have any such further points to be taken, may please. You are mute, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Saurabh. I think we can take up queries now.
So one question which has been raised in chat box in Zoom is like in 16.4 case, we have lost from appellate authority. Appellate authority has given negative ruling, negative order. And in such cases, it has been mentioned that since the tribunal has not started, so the appeal still needs to be filed. So in that cases, it is mentioned like whether we can refer to the 53rd Council minutes meeting, and based on that, we can ask the GST department not to attach our banks against such demand. So definitely, first and foremost thing, which if they are attaching the bank for this, that itself is not correct. You should give in a written letter to the department saying that since the tribunal has not started, therefore we are having our right to file an appeal in such cases. Maximum what they can ask is the pre-deposit amount to be deposited. So before appeal is being admitted, they cannot go for recovery. This is what is my view. So first, based on that, you should vacate your bank attachment, and then definitely you need to file the appeal to keep your case alive till the time the notification comes.
Yes. So one query from Srinivasji: what can be done in case penalty and interest is paid under protest during proceeding under section 73 and proceeding were dropped? Can we claim refund for 17, 18, 18, 19? So normally where if you are paying any tax under protest, so as a basic principle, they have to issue a show cause notice, because that's what is the principle. Because once show cause notice is issued, then only you will be able to contest your demand, which you have already paid under the protest. So first thing is we should request them to issue a show cause notice. There may be scenario which you are mentioning that the time have already been lapsed for issuance of show cause notice or order. Then we should definitely go by filing a refund application, citing that we have paid this demand under protest. And since no show cause notice has been issued to us, so we understand that the proceedings have been concluded at your end, and now we wish to claim the refund of the tax already paid under the protest. And whether 2 years has already lapsed after payment of tax. So that will also be one of the issue. Then we have to take records of general of limitation of 3 years if the tax is not payable. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
here, I'm sorry, here the situation was it has been paid when the show cause notice was issued, and tax dues was paid beyond 30 days of the show cause notice under 73. So to withdraw the proceedings, voluntarily paid under protest interest along with the 10% of the penalty.
So they must have passed some speaking order. They must have passed an order that the proceedings are concluded.
Here in Telangana, I'm from Telangana state, and they have some internal software developed by IIT Hyderabad, where there is no speaking orders. It's only a structural format. Accepted, not accepted, accepted, not accepted. That's it.
But it's a voluntary payment, I believe. It's not
a voluntary payment under protest.
Under protest. So if it is under protest, then they have to pass.
I am raising the DRC 03 under the remarks. Assessee is being paid the penalty and interest under protest to drop the proceedings as of now. If in case of any beneficiary proceedings under judiciary or schemes given by the government, will claim refund. This is a statement I have written in the remarks.
Okay. So then we
But
should
it
file
has,
refund.
it has happened 2 years back.
Yeah,
Timeline.
so then we should claim refund. We should claim refund because what will happen? The interest and penalty will not be payable,
Yeah.
right? Which you have already paid. So we should claim refund. Citing the all the grounds.
Refund.
Yes. Yes, yes, definitely. And you should mention all these facts also.
Yeah, it will be clear.
Ideally, if you are making payment under protest, even after issuance of show cause notice, then they have to pass a demand order. And they will appropriate your demand that you have paid such amount of tax under protest so that you can keep your case alive.
And further, another thing is the DRC 03 proceedings has been not completed by issuing 4 or 5.
They've issued 4.
They have to issue the 4, but they have not issued it. Still, it is pending.
That is fine. That is fine. That is not relevant. That is fine. What is important is they have to issue an order if you are making payment under protest. If they have not passed any order, please file the refund.
They dropped the proceedings under Section 73. They have given an order saying that the further proceedings under Section 73 stopped.
Okay, so did we go into the appeal? We didn't go into the appeal.
We didn't go appeal.
So, and what's the date of order?
Burden was around 3 lakhs.
I guess
Date of order.
Date of order is
2 years back. Yes,
23, May 23 it is.
May 23.
May 23.
Okay. So timeline of filing appeal is also expired. So
Yes.
now you have to challenge the order that the order itself is wrong. They have to appropriate the demand because you have paid the tax under protest. So the refund is the only recourse which you have to take.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. You have another query. If a person joins the accommodation with an intention of stay beyond 90 days, but leaves in between litigation, right? If you are having a continuous stay of more than 90 days, that's what you wish to mention. So then you are fulfilling the exemption. You can claim the exemption.
No, like what if he leaves in between? Earlier he was intending to go for more than 90 days, but he leaves within 45
So
days.
then the exemption will be withdrawn. If it is not a continuous stay of 90 days, exemption will be withdrawn. So that particular clause needs to be mentioned in the contract itself. That if you are vacating before 90 days, then we have to charge GST. Whenever the entry is implemented, as of now, it is not been notified. So date of notification is pending and the notification has not been issued yet. Whenever it is under implementation. I think you have already covered, Saurabh, the bank attachment query.
Yes, yes. And
RCM of self-invoice you can take.
Next query is regarding that RCM self-invoice. So that circular will be applicable on prospective or retrospective basis. So in our opinion, it is applicable on retrospective basis only, because this is just a clarification. Law was there earlier also, so we were following that. So retrospective is the case, sir.
Right.
And next question is the same which we have discussed. Like if there is any such RCM liability of previous years, then yes, you can raise the self-invoice now in case of such unregistered person, and then you can take the ITC.
Okay, next query also on 16.4 you can take.
That we have taken.
You've already addressed?
Yes.
So now coming to some queries, we have one live session on YouTube. First query is related to Praveen ji. Supplier issue tax invoice and credit note issued same time without GST. Section 15(3)(b)(2) is applicable or not?
Yes, we had discussed. I had taken this query during my presentation. Like basically, department will definitely go for procure. They will ask you to procure such certificates, and this is because you have given a credit note separately, and they will in turn treat this transaction as if you have made a supply before by raising an invoice, and then you are raising the credit note for giving discount. So in such cases, it is better basically to go for issuing the tax invoice, and in the tax invoice itself you mention the discount, since you are doing the raising both the invoice and credit notes on same day.
Okay. So if they also, he might also have a query about whether other than discounts, situations other than discounts, and if I'm issuing credit note maybe for returns or for rate difference. or for any downward revision in prices. So whether this particular section 15(3)(b) is applicable or not.
Right. So 15(3)(b) mainly deals with discount part only.
Right.
That is there, but a similar view basically is being taken by using section 34(2) also. That in the proviso it has been given written mentioned that the tax benefits should not have been passed on. You need to prove that also for reducing your tax liability. So again, that
Correct.
issue will come in other cases of credit notes also. Like
So
such a
practically
confirmation,
we should obtain
such
confirmation for ITC
confirmation should be
reversal.
obtained from them.
Okay. Then query from Chakraborty ji. They have filed GSTR 3B for few financial years 21-22, but GSTR 1 is not filed yet. Turnover is below 1 crore. Now whether they can file GSTR 1 and mention the document numbers, it was optional. Matlab, Chakraborty, you are asking about reference to B2CL category or in general case. Then if general cases, if you are asking, then you can file GSTR 1 even now for previous financial year, right? Now the department may impose late fee for late filing of GSTR 1. And if it is B2B, then you have to invoice wise reporting of transactions. And B2CL, it is 2.5 lakhs at that period of time. Now it will be reduced to 1 lakh B2CL invoice wise. So depending on the nature of transaction, invoice wise or consolidated details have to be provided in the GSTR 1. And even earlier also GSTR 1 was never optional. You have to file. Issue was with respect to whether monthly filing or quarterly filing, but we have to file the GSTR 1. So please
And
check your particular status. If you have already opted for quarterly filing, then also you have to file your GSTR 1 quarterly, right? Otherwise, your recipient will have an issue in claiming credit, and department will challenge that particular transaction is not appearing in GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B.
And also,
Yeah,
like
B2C.
document issued table in table 13, you
Right.
need to report all the invoices. So
Correct.
there, you're reporting the series of the documents.
He has mentioned all our B2C sales. So B2C sales, so if it is up to 2.5 lakhs, no invoice wise details. More than 2.5 lakhs, then invoice wise details are required.
Right.
Then another query from Vikasji, how to calculate rupees 5 lakhs limit in one particular financial year for getting certificate from CA for reversal of ITC against credit. I think he is asking with reference to the current circular.
Yes. So for this circular, it has been clarified. Like in a financial year, for one recipient, the tax amount needs to be computed by taking IGST, CGST, SGST, and cess, whatever is applicable. So for this 5 lakh limits, you need to consolidate all such amounts which have been mentioned in the trade notes during a financial year
Right.
on
Per
financial year
recipient and
basis.
per financial year, we have to go by that.
Yes.
Then Chakrabarti ji ka quick query, I think it is related to tax audit, so we are not taking it up. Moving forward, appeal for section 16(4), query from Bharat Shahji. For 1819 was decided against us. What to do now? In reference to the recent clarification, relaxation in 16(4), if he has not filed appeal yet.
So yeah, basically you need to file the appeal. This is what I believe right now, because the notification is yet to come. So I think you should keep your case alive. And since the date of filing appeal before tribunal is also not yet notified, you might face some pressure from department regarding recovery against such demand which has been confirmed by appellate authority. So in our opinion, what I think is what you should do is write a letter to department that you are going to challenge such amount in before tribunal, and also inform that the current press release it clarifies your case and mentions that such ITC is available to you. So therefore, no such recovery should be done.
Right. And I just like to add, because it is not an amnesty scheme. In case of tax waiver, interest and penalty waiver, it is an amnesty scheme. So will have a different procedure. They might introduce some form or something. It is a retrospective modification in the GST law. So we have to go by the appeal route or whatever is the stage. We have to fight our case and mention whatever the amendment is coming in, only based on that the appellate authority or appellate tribunal will pass a speaking order giving you the relief under section 16(4). So as Saurabh rightly mentioned, we have to keep our case alive.
Yes.
Then query from Ganesh, CS certification of reversal from supplier, is this clarification applicable retrospectively? Yes, I think we have already addressed. Any clarification of government not having any change in legal position is having applicability from retrospective effect from 1st of July 17. There's no doubt about it. Again, GST reversal by recipient upon receipt of discount credit note from supplier. Supplier can avail ITC on such reversal by recipient. Will such reversal by recipient will reflect in 2B of supplier? So I think yes. GST reversal from open. I think it will be reflecting if it is a GST credit note, so it will get reflected in your GSTR 2B.
Yeah, right. If the supplier is issuing the credit note, it will be reflecting in GSTR 2B of recipient. Based on that, they will be reducing their liability. But there is slightly some words I'm getting confused. GST reversal by recipient. Upon receipt of discount credit note from suppliers, supplier can avail ITC on such reversal by recipient. So it is basically not supplier cannot avail ITC, supplier has to reduce his outward tax liability.
Right, correct.
And in suppliers to be, no such amount will be there because supplier will be filing GSTR 1 and mentioning details of such credit note in his GSTR 1. And in GSTR 2B of recipient, such credit note will appear. And based on that, recipient will reduce his liability.
Right, correct. So we have one more query from Kishorji. Accounts freezed without issue of DRC 07. What to do? Sir, what is the nature of freezing of account that we have to check? Maybe it is because of some provisional bank account attachment to protect the revenue. So it totally depends on the nature of violation, right? If it is a normal routine procedure where you have already been received the show cause notice, then they have freezed your bank account, so that they should not do. You should file a response to this particular bank account attachment to your department, and we have to see what is the nature of violation. Based on that only we can advise. And normally in cases without passing a demand order, bank account is not freezed. Provisional bank account attachment is there. The power is there with the department. They do in some cases. That also in some exceptional cases. They cannot do in all the cases. Normally in case of tax evasion or where they have some doubts of that the SSA will be defaulting and will not be paying our revenue. So in only those cases they do. So what is your nature of case? If you are available, we can discuss. Otherwise, we will do offline, right? And then Vinodji has a query. Can we submit SCN reply after 30 days? So yes, sir, you can definitely submit your reply as before hearing and even before passing any order. There is no timeline provided in GST law that you have to submit your SCN reply within 30 days. It is provided in the DRC 06 form. So that is only a procedural. And whenever department issues show cause notice, they also mention that please submit your reply within 30 days. So in any case, if you are not able to submit your reply within 30 days, you can file for adjournment or additional time you can seek from the department, maybe 15 days, 30 days. And only after hearing and after passing an order, you'll not be able to submit. So before that, you can easily submit. That's not an issue. But whatever is the scenario, you should keep informed the department and file a formal letter for extension for filing your SCN reply if you are not submitting within 30 days timelines, which is prescribed in the show cause notice. So I think we have covered all the queries.
Just one more of Sanjay Dardiji on YouTube chat box. Like he has again mentioned, like my question was about post-sale discount credit note from supplier. So yes, sir, we discussed that part. And there is also one thing mentioned. What is the mechanism to use for reversal of GST by recipient? Like what I understand is how the recipient should reverse his ITC. So currently, the mechanism which is being given in law or by returns is that such ITC is being netted off in all other ITC. Whatever credit notes my supplier is issuing, such ITC is netted off directly in my all other ITC of GSTR 3B. That is table number 4A5. So there we are generally, reversing by netting off. So this is also one major issue actually, because at the time of giving the CA certificate or declaration, I need to justify also that I have done such reversal. So we'll have to see like how to what extent the CA certificate would be, because it would be very difficult to obtain a list of all the ITC which has been taken by my recipient and mention all such details along with the reversal of credit note which has been done by me. So that will be a difficult task, but yes, as required by the circular, such details also needs to be given. And the mechanism is currently what is there is by reversing in by netting off in all other ITC.
I think he has a follow-up query where the credit note without GST is issued. Then what about reversal of GST by recipient, whether it is required or not? From Sanjay ji only.
Right. So if credit note is being issued without GST, then there is no liability on the supplier to get such certificate from recipient, as he's not taking any such benefit of reducing his tax liability. And accordingly, the recipient is also not required to reverse his ITC.
Correct. So thank you very much for today's session. Now over to Pooja ji to take
Yeah.
over.
Hello, CA Nikhil ji and CA Saurabh ji. Thank you so much for taking this session. Actually, lots of circular has been issued, especially related to this litigation part of 17, 18 and 18, 19, where most of the cases has already been settled. And how to take benefit of these notification and the remedies which have been provided by the government. So it was a very useful session for us and for the members also to ask their doubt that how they can claim these remedies for their clients or for their own issues, which for the cases which has been already settled now. So it was a great session, and we will definitely get back to you for all if we get any doubts on the same topic, then we will try to arrange one more session with you people.
Sure, sure.
It was a
Definitely,
pleasure to
definitely.
have you on our
Thank you.
platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil
Thank
ji.
you to all the
Saurabh ji.
participants. Thank you very much.
So we are concluding this session. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Bye.